Hi there. I'm excited to share this with you. I'll be releasing one chapter of my first book every week until the entire story is complete. You can listen while you're working, driving, or just kicking back in your favorite spot. Some chapters will be short, others a bit longer, but every one of them is free to enjoy. If it's not your thing, that's totally okay, no hard feelings. But if you like it, feel free to tune in each week or even share it with a friend. Can't wait for the next chapter? No problem. Scan the QR code on your screen to purchase the full book on Amazon. Happy listening.
Chapter 14. Day of Reckoning. The morning comes quickly, and before he knows it, Jesus Freak finds himself moving calmly toward the junkyard where he first met with Jacob. His alter ego's unresolved issues with Karen are still present, but he pushes them to the back burner in hopes of having enough concentration to survive the day. Even as he moves forward, Jesus Freak wonders if he is really going to do this. I mean, come on, God. You are sending me into the hideout of one of the biggest gangs in the country. Who knows how many people will be there ready to fight and even kill me. Although it would be nice if I asked them to give me Screamer and they just hand him over. But if we do fight, they have home court advantage. God, I hope you know what you are doing. I am completely doing this for and counting on you. Jesus Freak thinks. He stubbornly holds on to the freedom that he found in the conversation that he had with his pastor the previous night. He tells himself that he will not let doubt and woe overtake him again. He has firmly decided to accept whatever fate awaits him as he follows what he believes that the master of all creation has assigned him to. This includes death. The only question now is how gracefully can he act out this plan of God's, and will he have the strength to achieve what it is God wants him to? I can't believe you actually showed up, okay? I thought you were lying, mister. Jacob's voice cuts through Jesus Freak's thoughts and alerts him to his own arrival at the meeting spot. Jesus Freak looks in the direction of the voice and sees the young man standing in an obviously planned and confident-looking pose. On his back is a bat, and on his belt is a knife. A self-made sack, slung over his shoulder and hanging at his hip, holds rocks and other small debris for manual use as projectile weapons. The kid is dressed in dark clothes with black gloves that don't cover the fingers. He looks like he is prepared for a showdown. Jesus Freak laughs a little and says, I won't be needing any of that stuff. I have my own tools that I work with. Indignantly, Jacob informs him. This is for me, okay? His face scrunches up as he responds. Jesus Freak's demeanor changes, and he takes on a more stern tone. I don't know what you think is going to happen today, kid, but you will not be anywhere near the action. You are going to tell me where to go find him, and I will do the rest. There is no fighting for you. I am too coming. Okay? You need my help. Jacob says. No, you are not, and that is final. I'm doing this for you, so we will work by my terms. You are not prepared for what may go on in there once everything gets started. Jesus Freak proclaims. Jacob's arms snap down and out away from his sides as he leans forward, extending his head toward Jesus Freak and chides. I am prepared. Okay. You are not prepared. Who tries to go into an enemy base dressed in the brightest color they can find? Jesus Freak wants to be offended at the kid's sass but finds himself laughing on the inside as Jacob's words hit home. See, God? Even the kid knows that this is not the best outfit for infiltrating enemy territory. It sort of screams. Here I am, come beat me up. Jesus Freak thinks. That may be so. Jesus Freak says to the kid. But I have my reasons for what I'm wearing, even though a kid like you may not understand it. Inside he thinks, and for that matter neither do I. You don't get it. I can tell you how to get there, but trying to explain how to get in without being seen is impossible. Okay? I have to guide you in and show you. I sneak in and out all of the time. Okay? But if you want to knock on the front door and fight your way to Screamer, then be my guest. Okay? Jacob's words are curt but undeniably true. I won't sit and argue the point, kid. You are right, but so am I. Jesus Freak asserts. You can come with me, but you are to stay hidden no matter what happens. You can leave all of the weapons here because you will not be fighting with me at any point during this mission. Your only job is to get us in and get us out. He looks directly into Jacob's eyes and uses his own signature word to finish his statement. Okay. The kid starts in. No, I'm gonna. Suddenly his words stop coming out, even though he has more to say. He looks into the eyes of Jesus Freak, past the white mask covering his face, and can feel the intensity of his firm decision. A small sliver of fear tickles his spine as he gazes into the unwavering glare beyond the mask. It actually is a comfort for him because for the first time, he actually feels fairly confident that Jesus Freak can get the job done. Okay. I will stay out of it. I promise, okay. Jacob says. No time like the present, kid. Let's get moving. Jesus Freak mumbles in his slow, low, gruff voice. They walk toward the center of town with morning light shining forth on their path. Their shadows lead the way. In less than half a mile, the entire mood and landscape seems to change. Now Jesus Freak finds himself in an area covered with shadows that are cast by tall buildings and building fragments. They weave in and out of alleys, vacant buildings, and streets. Jesus Freak looks at the condition of things around him. The people look like they are in less than favorable conditions. It looks as if the entire area was one big slum community. People meander back and forth, looking to fulfill their addictions and desires. Jesus Freak follows Jacob in and out of building husks until finally they reach a tall building in decent condition. Graffiti marks the walls and sidewalks, but the building is not completely falling apart. Jesus Freak is not sure exactly what company used to own the building, but he knows that it was an office building, possibly the head office. The area has a strange aura to it. Jesus Freak can feel the danger. It is not just because of the task that he is about to undertake. The place gives off the same feel as the houses in scary movies that are known to house the evil monster. This is it. Jacob informs him. But we have to enter the back, side, okay. Jesus Freak nods in agreement, trying to remain silent so as not to arouse the attention of anyone who may be guarding the building. Jacob signals to follow him. The entire base of the building is shrouded by shadow. Standing in that area, it is easy to forget that it is still daytime. The kid leads the hero to a manhole with no cover. The darkness around them is only surpassed by the darkness of the inside of that manhole. I already prepared the way last night. Jacob whispers. We gotta go in here, okay? Jacob points down into the darkness of the manhole. They make their way discreetly into the hole, and darkness covers them. Jesus Freak wonders how Jacob intends to be followed in such thick darkness. The sound of the kid's feet hitting water and concrete at the bottom of ladder and sloshing forth signals Jesus Freak to complete his descent into the blackness. As he reaches the bottom of the ladder, he feels around with his foot but can feel neither the next rung nor the ground itself. Where's the bottom? He whispers. Oh yeah. Jacob says. The bottom of the ladder is about 3 feet off of the ground. You have to drop the rest of the way. As scary as it is to let go in total darkness and drop, he does so. Behind him he hears a distinct clicking. Suddenly, a small flickering light forms and chases away a small portion of the darkness that surrounds them. Jesus Freak looks toward the source and sees that Jacob is holding a small lighter in his left hand. It's not much, but it's enough light to get where we need to go. Jacob tells him. From here on out, we will need to be as quiet as possible because they can sometimes hear things we do in the walls, okay? But the good thing is we can hear them too, okay? There's a crawl space that leads into the walls from here. I'm not sure how it got there, but I use it all the time, okay? If we want, we can go into the walls to listen to what's going on, but we have to be careful, okay? Any noise we make can be heard. Or we can go into the old office room at the end where no one ever goes, okay? Go where? Jesus Freak mumbles. At the end of this hole is an old dusty office, but there is no way out of it except the door. I did not find any other holes. That's why instead of going into the room, I normally go into the walls. Jacob answers. They walk on toward the place that Jacob mentioned. The ceiling is only about 6 feet tall, so it leaves Jesus Freak feeling the need to sort of stoop while walking through. The ground has some form of wetness but does not smell like raw sewage. Perhaps it was just a maintenance tunnel of some sort. They come to a stop as an oddly shaped object blocks their way. The low, gruff mumbling voice says, "Be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak." Is that a flipped-up desk? No, it's a ladder, okay. The kid replies. It is obviously a desk. The flame's flickering light can't even hide that fact. Jesus Freak is dumbfounded, trying to figure out if perhaps he heard the words coming from the kid's mouth incorrectly. He considers which words he got wrong and how to make a complete thought out of any variations. See. We climb up here, okay? Jacob instructs. The flickering light catches hold of the ceiling above the desk. There is an obvious opening that can be seen even in the dim light. I know what you are thinking, and no, it won't fall over. I actually tried to move it, but it's stuck in the ground somehow, okay? Jacob notes. Jesus Freak gives it the obligatory check over for sturdiness and finds out that he has no chance of moving the desk either as it is lodged into the concrete below. Jacob goes first and climbs up on the desk and crawls into the opening in the ceiling. Looking at the hole, Jesus Freak realizes that the desk itself is actually responsible for the opening. How did this happen? He wonders. Taking cue from the kid, he climbs up into the hole, and everything the kid said makes sense all of a sudden as his eyes lay hold of his surroundings. The hole goes down into the sewer, but it also breaks through the front of the wall, giving access to the small crawl space in the wall. The office is dusty and unkempt from not being entered in so long, but there is more. Looking at the disarray of the room, it seems as if someone hated the room and tossed it about before deciding to never enter it again. Suddenly, it hits Jesus Freak that he is in the building and the situation is real. Jacob motions him over toward the opening to the crawl space. Jesus Freak shakes his head no and points a finger toward the floor. It was his way of telling Jacob that he needs to stay in that room. Jesus Freak has decided that it is best for him to stay in the open rather than squeeze through walls. If a confrontation starts, he has a better chance with his meteor crossed in the open. Jacob contorts his face in such a way as to indicate that either he does not understand or does not agree with what Jesus Freak is telling him. Stiffening the motions in his arm, Jesus Freak points at the kid, jerking his finger to a stop, and then points to the ground of the room they are in, also jerking his finger to a stop. It was almost as if he were yelling in sign language. Jacob nods his head in reluctant agreement. There was no mistaking that Jesus Freak was telling him to stay put. Jesus Freak takes the time to examine his surroundings and finds that what Jacob told him is correct. There is only the door and the hole leading below. There are no other viable exits from the room. Even the vents are too small for even a young child to enter. I guess that leaves me only the door as an option for getting out of this room. Jesus Freak thinks. Is this really God? Am I going to do this? Remember that I am counting on you and that I am only doing this for you. In some ways, he hopes that pointing this out will make God more readily available to help him out. By man's moral standards, if someone is doing something good to assist you, you should feel obligated to help them help you as much as you can. The fear is ever present, but he pushes forward in spite of, never letting himself think too hard about why he is afraid. Thinking about it too hard may cause him to waver, and he has come too far to waver now. Slowly and stealthily, he walks toward the door. The room itself is shadowy dark, but not pitch black. There are huge windows on the wall opposite the door that let in a faint light. Kind of like dull moonlight on a dark night, there's only enough light to make out familiar shapes. Also breaking the hardy grip of darkness is a small sliver of luminance emanating from under the office door. Jesus Freak realizes that there is light on the other side of the door. it likely means that someone is out there. Of course, what is likely is not always what is. These are the considerations that Jesus Freak has to make while treading across the floor toward the door. If this is my first fight, I will need to keep it as quiet as possible, just like in the movies, so as to keep from alerting others around, the hero contemplates. Oh crap. In the movies, they kill, or at least have a drug to knock people out. I'm not killing, and I definitely don't know how to create drugs that knock people out. What am I gonna do? There is a slight pause in his thinking that starts to give way to thoughts of giving up. No. I have come too far now to turn back. It is in God's hands. I am sure that Daniel did not know how he would survive the lion's den when he was thrown in, but wait. He was thrown in. I'm willingly marching to my death. The floor beneath his feet is solid, and the distance betwixt him and the door ever shrinking. No, this is not to my death. I will succeed. As he reaches for the door, he audibly mumbles, I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. Suddenly, the door is open, and he is peering outside. No sound of voices or footsteps is detected. Could the coast really be clear? He steps with his homemade white garb, as fluorescent as ever, and skulks forward, taking note of his surroundings. He finds himself in a side corridor. One way leads to elevators and the other to the main lobby. That's when it dawns on him that he is on the first floor of an old high-rise office. He thinks, I wonder how many floors are there, and which floor is the guy I am looking for on? How do I figure it out, and how do I get there without being seen? He decides that thinking about it will only make him quit, so he decides to check out the lobby to see what he can find. Maybe the front desk has a security set with camera monitors that can assist him in his endeavor. Quietly, he creeps down the hall, a relatively long hall at that. With each step, the lobby gets a little bigger. A yellow plastic caution police tape can be seen blocking off his entry into the lobby, but getting past the tape is the least of his concerns. He hugs the wall with his back as he closes in, being sure not to let his outfit rub the wall and make noise. Reaching the wall's edge and the point of his tape blockade, he realizes that the tape is not meant to keep him out but to keep others from going to where he is. He stands tactically against the wall and begins by taking quick darting looks around the corner. The darts are so fast that he can hardly see what is in the lobby. He then decides to take a slow, careful look around the corner. He is so precise that his left cheek barely misses grazing the wall as he slinks his head forward. His eyes are pointed as far left in their sockets as they can go. The point of the look is to identify any threat specifically while minimizing the likelihood of being detected. There is a long circular receptionist's desk stretching across past his sight line, but no people. The lobby is large and full of places to sit and various fake plants to add to the decor. All the way across from him, in the middle of the wall, is a set of full glass entry doors. He continues his slow survey until he can fully see the lobby. His neck is stretched and his head is turned as far left as he can get it. Still, no signs of people or patrol. With that taken care of, Jesus Freak decides that it is time to move forward. He could easily break the tape and walk forward, but decides that anyone who sees the broken tape will know that there is an intruder. Instead, he grabs the plastic line and uses it to guide himself underneath it. Trying to maintain his soundless surveillance, he slowly slips past the line into the lobby. He begins to stand back up and click, clack. The door sounds. It's like I told him. I don't like when they leave Scrima in command. He just wants to show his power. Now, we have to meet with him on the 5th floor and listen to some self-righteous speech about how good he is or obeying him again. A voice complains as it comes through the door. Yeah, well, just be glad he ain't one of the tops. Then he would be in charge more often. Another voice responds. Jesus Freak halts his ascent and stays below the line of sight of the reception desk, using it as concealment. His heart beats wildly, thinking about how he was just about to expose himself. Inwardly, he thanks God as he tries to get a hold of himself and listen to the conversation being had by guys who just came in. I'll bet he makes us wait again. He calls us up there, and then we just sit until he gets ready to come out. One voice says. The voice travels through the lobby, giving Jesus Freak the approximate location of the men as they make their way toward the reception desk. Jesus Freak has to consider the fact that they may be coming to the desk. It is not likely that they are going toward the hallway that he has just come from, as it has been taped off for a reason. With all his white clothing on, he is sure to be spotted if he is in their line of sight. He reasons that there must be a hallway on the other side that leads to elevators as well, but cannot be sure. Their footsteps on the floor get louder and louder. Jesus Freak takes hold of his meteor cross as he slides himself sideways with the sound, moving around the desk, to try and keep the desk between him and them. Sure enough, their footsteps start to sound like they are moving toward the other side of the room. I'm telling you that one day, that guy is going to move up the ladder, and we are all going to be in trouble. Can you truly imagine such a thing? The sound of their voices begins to fade as they walk through what seems to be the hallway that Jesus Freak suspected was on the other side of the lobby. Calm begins to come to him once again until he looks over toward the lobby door and realizes that he can see it clearly from his new position on the side of the desk. What if someone else comes in? He will stick out like a cardinal in the middle of a flock of crows. Sensing that it is safe to do so, he removes his hand from his weapon and crawls back to his position behind the desk. He hears the ding of the elevator and their footsteps as they enter it. Now that he is actually behind the desk, he sees that there are no security monitors, but it is okay. He already knows that they are, or at least will be, on the 5th floor. After not finding any monitors behind the desk but discovering where he needs to be, it is time for him to go to his destination. But what is the best way to do that? If he were to go up the elevator, there is a chance someone on another floor might get on with him, or that the elevator will open up to a room full of enemies. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Jesus Freak mumbles. It just seems so appropriate at this time. In a place with evil all around looking for a way to destroy him, he must navigate through to the end. It is only possible by replacing his fear with faith. He makes the decision to find a door that leads to a stairway as opposed to taking the elevator. Jesus Freak peeks up and identifies points in the room where he can run to and hide behind as he makes his way to the hall, places that will block him from the view of the front door, just in case someone else comes in. The key is not to be caught while making the transition and to be aware that somebody may be guarding the hallway that he is trying to get to as well. A little nervous, he prepares for his first quiet dash. What? He responds. But I need to do it like this because someone could come in and see me, and people from the outside will be able to see me through the windows. It was you who told me to have this white costume. His heart thumps as he has the mental conversation with God. Partially, he hopes to convince the voice of God that his way is better, but inside, he knows that it is highly unlikely. Not only so, but when his negotiations fail, he will have to carry out that which is being asked of him. It is scary, but there is also a part of him that knows that if God says it, it must be the right thing to do. Of course I trust you. I'm here, aren't I? I just don't think that the risk is worth it. Nevertheless, your will be done and not mine. Afraid that he is going to get caught by someone, Jesus Freak pops to his feet out of obedience. Standing straight up for all to see, he proceeds toward the hallway to find some stairs. He is trusting that God will not allow anyone to happen upon him. Hey, who are you, and where do you think you are going? A voice from behind utters in shock and surprise. Jesus Freak turns to look and sees a young guy with hair made into individually knotted balls all over his head, piercings speckled about his face, and tattoos crawling from under his sleeves. On his right hip is a two-way radio in a holster. He was leaning against a post in the middle of the lobby. Even if he had been there the whole time, the thick post would have covered him from Jesus Freak's sight as he attempted to survey the room. The guy's height would have stopped him from seeing Jesus Freak if he had remained ducked down and snuck over to the corridor. Did you hear me? The young man barks. I must be about my father's business. Jesus Freak mumbles in that low, gruff voice. Speak up. If this is a test or a prank, you better speak up now, 'cause so help me, I am about to crush you," the young man demands as he flexes his ample muscles. There is no avoiding it. A confrontation is more than imminent. Jesus Freak grabs hold of his meteor cross and holds it up. "Repent and you shall be saved," the hero proclaims. The young man's hand starts in the direction of the two-way radio. If he reaches the radio, the problem becomes that much larger, and Jesus Freak knows it. In an instant, he snaps his meteor cross forward, launching the hammer portion forward toward the young man. It glides swiftly and smoothly through the air, so much so that it is all the young man can do to move his hand out of the way. The radio, however, is hit so hard that it not only bursts open but completely comes off his belt. In that mumbling gruff voice, Jesus Freak says, Proverbs 21 verse 23 says, "Whoever keeps his mouth and tongue keeps himself out of trouble." In shock at the speed and force of the attack, the young man spaces out for a brief moment, trying to process what just happened and even what is being said to him. Suddenly, his brain snaps back to his current situation. "What the heck is wrong with you, man?" he yells frantically. "Do you know where you are? You should not have done that. Now you're gonna get it." The young man charges Jesus Freak with intensity, determined to take him down. With his rope already retracted, Jesus Freak clips the meteor cross back onto his hip and takes a stance in preparation for the impact of the charge. The young man closes in on Jesus Freak with his teeth gritted, growling, "Now you die!" Seconds later, the young man finds himself losing consciousness as Jesus Freak applies the quick tie cuffs to him. His last thoughts before entering a sweet sleep are, "What just happened? How did I get here?" "That was exactly what I was trying to avoid, God. It's a good thing I was able to knock his radio off before he could call for help, or that could have gone a lot worse," Jesus Freak thinks as he secures the young man to a nearby post for safekeeping. He then quickly makes his way to the hallway to find the stairs. Even though he has taken out what seems to be the front guard, there is no telling if someone else will be coming in. Surely, no one who enters will miss seeing their unconscious friend strapped to the post. Immediately, he can see the elevators on both sides of the corridor and an opening to another hall on the right, but no sign of stairs. He sprints softly to the hallway and slowly peeks around the corner to see if there is a door to a stairwell. Sure enough, he is correct. "Okay, 5th floor, here I come," he mumbles. He dashes through the door and up the stairs, moving quietly but with little stealth. By the 3rd flight of stairs, he feels the fatigue beginning to set in and asks himself why is he running up the stairs. He comes to a complete halt and bends over slightly, placing his hands on his knees. He purposely makes his breaths deep and fulfilling. "It does not matter if I get there fast or slow, but it does matter what condition I am in when I get there," he thinks. "I can't afford to make mistakes in judgment like that. It could cost me my life. I am not ready to die yet. I still have things to settle with Karen." His mind begins to reminisce for a while over the things that have happened with him and Karen until he realizes that he did not include God in his thought. "Oh yeah, and because I have things left to do for you, God," he deliberately thinks, trying to make up for his blunder. With his breathing back to normal and his fatigue level down, he begins to walk leisurely up the stairs. In no time at all he reaches the 5th floor door. His adrenaline is elevated as he anticipates what may be waiting for him behind the door. After all, there is supposed to be a meeting or gathering being held there. That means that there is sure to be people in abundance on this floor. Shall I continue on without stealth? He inquires of God. The answer causes conflicting emotions within him. On one hand, he feels relieved that he can go back to doing it the way that he is comfortable with. On the other hand, it was a relief knowing in the back of his head that he is following God and, as far as he was concerned, it was God's job to keep him safe. Now that he is being allowed to make the decisions that will keep him alive, he also feels the pressure of the responsibility. He puts his mind back into stealth mode as he slowly opens the door. He pushes softly, hoping that there would be no creaking as the door creeps open. He positions his face so that he can see through the crack as it is being created. He hopes to get a glimpse of what awaits him on the other side. But as he could have guessed, all he can see is wall. Apparently, the door is in an offset mini hallway just like the one he entered on the bottom floor. It likely has bathrooms on each side as well. He opens the door just enough, and he quietly squeezes through, facing forward. Just as he thought, he was in a small offshoot hallway with restrooms on either side. In the distance, he can hear a sort of indistinct group voice emanating. His heart pounds as he tries to focus his ears, but it's no use, he will have to get closer. The light is dim and flickering at the end of the small passage. He can see cubicles directly in front of himself. The half-darkness mixed with the flickering light pattern provide a perfect atmosphere for a scary movie. But this is no movie, and Jesus Freak knows that it is his life that is on the line. I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me, he says, trying to calm his anxiety. Determining that the sound is coming from the right side, he places his back on the right wall and inches toward the end of the hallway, facing the left side. He keeps his gaze steady, trying to see what is on the left side of the hall and confirm it is safe while staying out of the view of the right side. Thinking that the left side is safe, he begins peeking around the corner to see if he can get a glimpse of where the noise is coming from without being discovered himself. His eyes light upon another small pathway lined with partially destroyed cubicles on one side and the wall on the other. At the end of this new corridor is an open door with good light pouring forth from it. Guess that's where I'm going, he says to himself. He eases his way up the hall, looking around at all times to be sure he is not walking himself into someone's visual domain. Of course, as he gets closer to the end, he can hear the voices louder and more distinct. It is a bunch of camaraderie and foolish talk. He can't make out every word of the many conversations going on, but what he does hear does not seem to be of any particular importance. The sign on the door says conference room. He gets as close to the door as he can and starts to try to peek around the corner and get an assessment of how many people are in the room and what advantages they might have. He is also looking for ways to get around without being seen. Suddenly, he is shoved from behind and tumbles headlong into the room. A voice from behind says, "You're not getting us this time."